Hi everyone. This week I started to record making plates a couple days ago and then my camera battery died. So we are back to it today. I am honestly glad that it died because the plates that I made have dried and unfortunately they warped. So this week I'm going to show you exactly how I make them, and I'm going to ask that any potters out there who use slabs to build plates or anything in general, maybe you can help me, because I usually throw things on the wheel, but I bought some GR pottery forms. They're way over there for right now, in the WA2 system, so that I could do them a little bit faster and not have to waste so much clay. So for those of you who don't do pottery or maybe only slab build, when you throw a plate, generally you throw like 4 pounds of clay, and then you waste so much when you go to trim that it's just annoying, and I hate recycling clay is just the worst. So I tried slab building and they looked great when I went to go paint them. You can't really tell from this angle, but once they dried out, they warped. So I spent all this time painting Princess Donut, and can you see? Look at that. So my question to you is, how do I prevent this? I did let this dry for about 3 days, so it wasn't like it dried really fast. I, put something on top and flipped it over to get it off. I just happened to watch Florian Gadsby's new video where he throws plates, and his suggestion for warping is, well, it's leather hard to put like a piece of wood, something semi-heavy on top to keep it flat as it dries. So if that's something you've done with slab-built plates, let me know if that works. I also had some warpage and like drying out too fast, I think with the mug, and I think it was Tim C from Tim C Pottery suggested that you can put it back in a wet box with plaster, like a wet plaster, to rehydrate it. It does take a really long time, but I'm wondering if I can rehydrate this plate, if I can then put something on top to like even it back out, or is it like clay has a memory and now it's warped forever. And so I've made, I think, 6 plates. I haven't painted on all of them, but I have painted on a couple of them, and most of them have warped. So I'm going to show you what I did, and maybe you can comment and let me know what I did wrong. Thanks. This is my Beaver, not real slab roller. It's like a cold laminator, I believe. But a lot of people have been using it to roll slabs of clay, and it costs about $89. So I decided that I would give it a go, and it has worked great. I will show you what I do first to prepare it, basically. I added a Sharpie mark on each of the knobs, and that way it helps me to know how many times I've rotated it to make it wider, or thicker I should say. And I'll show you what I do every time before I use it. So these are just little wooden flat pieces. I actually got these out of a dollhouse kit that I had for my kids, and I take 2 of them and I just make sure that they are even and they can both go in and have a little resistance, and that way I know my marks are both lined up to the side. So anytime you put a slab in, it's got to be thicker. So I'm going to go looser by 1 turn, maybe 2 turns, and then maybe a third, and see if that's thick enough for me to get my first slab of clay through there. For my clay, I have porcelain from Standard 213. It's the cheaper of the two porcelains they have, but I don't know the difference, so that's what I'm using. It's really nice to be able to cut a slab off of this and then just roll it down essentially. So if you don't have the slab roller, you can totally just slam it down in different directions to make it thinner, or use a rolling pin. I've done both. So basically you just want to make it maybe like an inch thick and try to keep it even as you go, because that'll make it easier for the slab roller to work. And then put that on, close this back up. And then I do like slam it down a couple times just to get it a little softer. I don't know if you guys have ever had a hard brick of clay, but if you slam it down, it loosens it up somehow, breaks up the molecules, and it makes it a little softer. So I do this a couple times. And then, since it's going into the slab roller, I like to put it at the edge up here, because the first pass is going to squish it this way. So that's all you have to do. Okay, now I have this big piece of craft foam that came in a big roll. You can just get it at any craft store. It's not very expensive. And I cut it to the size of my GR Pottery Forms large, I don't know what you call this, a slab board? I don't know. So it's the same size. Cover up your clay, otherwise it will stick to this. And then shove it in and see if it will roll, and see how it's not really like sucking it in. That means I know I have to go up on my wheel. So I'm gonna go lefty-loosey 2 more times. 1, 2, see if that works. Yep. And so that goes in a lot easier. And I'm pushing from here as I roll as well, because this wheel over here is not very strong. Oh, and you can see it coming out. So I probably should have went up even more, because it's already squishing out. So I go back and forth a couple times, because as it goes, it can create kind of like wrinkles in there. So I go back and forth a few times and then check on it. And since I already ran out of space, I'm gonna take it off and turn it the other way. There it goes, coming out of there too. Okay. And that, let's see, will fit a small plate. So that's actually even smaller than the ones I have been using. So let's just make sure that that will fit. And it will, but it doesn't give us very much space, because once you mold it over, you actually need more than you think. So I might just get a little bit more clay. I'm going to keep this slab for something else, but I am going to start a new slab. Okay, so the last one I did was I went a little bit too aggressive on the flattening. So this time I'm going to just go lefty-loosey 2 or 3 more times and see if that's a little bit better. right, I already feel like that's better since it's not squishing out. And then I'm gonna release the clay from the board, and I'm gonna turn it this way, and I'm gonna move it up towards the front of the board and tighten it. So now righty-tighty, we'll just go 1. So this will be just like a pasta machine almost. You wanna do it in steps. And then I'm gonna go 1 more righty-tighty. This, especially if you're doing circle plates, gives you a little bit more control over the shape that you're making. So see how thick it is? I'm gonna go down a few more steps, and I'm gonna just turn it a little bit more. All right, I'll probably go down just a tiny bit more. This is almost exactly, so I might go a half a turn more just to kind of even it out. This went off the edge a little bit, so we'll see how that comes out, but we're almost there for my width. Okay, let's see. Let's go half. See what that does. Like I said, go back and forth a few times just to make sure it's super even. Perfect. Okay, so we could actually do a big plate with this. Since we turned it so many times, it gave us more of that circular, shape. So now what I do is lay that on there and try not to bang it up, and then get a knife. And the most important thing is that you want to remember, you don't just want to go to this edge because you'll have a little bit of space here because of the curve adds a little bit more length. So you want to go a little bit beyond, and then this little tool is to make a foot. So you probably want to go at least that far around, which is what, like an inch, probably. So now I'm going to cut around. Oops, well, try to cut around as best you can. And scrap this part. And we'll make that into another plate. Okay, now you can gently lift the plate mold and try not to bang it up too much. And then we take it over to our wheel. Okay, to me, this is the most fun part. So, you take, this is called the key to our Watu system. Get it all on there. And it's easiest to put the key in this first. And there is a right and wrong way. So, I don't know if they stamp in the same spot every time, but you got to figure out which way to put it, because it won't be centered if you have it the other way. So then line up that to the bottom. Maybe you're better at puzzles than I am. Oh boy. Oh, there we go. Okay. Make sure that's clean. So this is going to be the face of your plate, so you do want to make sure that there's nothing on that. I have had it before where I put on a stamped clay already and it made an imprint on here and kind of got onto the next one. So we are going to take our clay and we're going to put it onto this. So gently lift it off the edges. This is why it was important to release your clay as you go, because a lot of times it will stretch out and distort as you go, especially if it's really wet. Okay, so you just kind of gently find the center and where you will have the most clay around the edges, and gently form it around your mold. And then I just kind of slap it down so that it gets any air bubbles out. So you're making a flat piece of clay into now a 3D shape, and so there's going to be a little bit of finesse. I'm going to cut this excess piece off right here. Okay, now I will get a sponge, wet, and I like to use the mud tool sponges or any other sponge that has not much texture. This is an older one, but it's fine for now. So now I turn the wheel on and slowly work your way from the center out, and essentially you're pressing it down gently into that mold underneath. And I like to make sure that this part where the mold meets the base, I really kind of push it this way, because that's the part that needs the most stretching. Okay, now you can take a scoring tool of your choice. I know this isn't really like supposed to be a scoring tool, but it's easy to use. And since this is a large plate, I'm gonna make 2 foot rings. I'm gonna do one here and then one here. And I never measure, but that's just me. You can go ahead and measure if you want them all to be exactly the same. Now is the part we work on the foot ring. And so personally, I wish that these tools were a little bit sharper, but as you can see, they're pretty blunt. And so they tear the clay more than they cut the clay. But it is nice to see how it's just like ripping the clay up. And so as you push, it does that more and more. I like it just to make a mark where I should go. And so then I use my tool and I try to go at exactly the same like angle to try to make it that foot ring shape. So then I just put my knife in at an angle, and then at the opposite angle, and then cut off the excess. And one thing that I've learned while making these plates is when you go to take this foot ring off, because you have to flip it over to score the underside, because this will be the top. So you have to flip it over to score the other side. When you go to take it off, if you pull up like this, it'll mess up that angle you just made. So you have to pull it out and around, and then flip it over. So now you're seeing the broadest part, and you want the most clay to be touching your foot ring. So I just lay it out like that, and then I take whatever scoring tool you have, and I turn my wheel on a little bit, just slowly scoring as I go. And for these, since the clay is so moist already, I just use water as my slip, and porcelain is so soft, like the particles are so small that it really does turn into slip really easily. So then I just score it again, maybe add a little bit more water depending on how wet your clay already is. And then another thing I've learned is that you always want to make your strip that you're cutting a little longer than you think you'll need, because I tend to get that part wrong. So I'm going to do the middle small one first. And it's important that you follow your circle, because that makes it easier when you go to actually like push it on. And I like to throw my feet just a little bit personally, so you'll see that in a minute. So try to make it as circle as you can now, because that will save you a little bit of time. And then take the remaining foot. Don't forget you're flipping it over like this so that these two sides meet. Line it up to your scored area. And I'm not even pushing down, I'm just making a curve in my clay basically, because I want to make sure that it's in the right spot before I glue it down essentially. So I might even turn my wheel on just a little bit at this point. See how that's not right. So I'm not pushing down, I'm just guiding the clay into the right spot. And then cut off your excess and kind of squish those together. Okay, now that it's mostly in the right spot, I like to add a little bit of water and work on that middle one first. Okay, decent. The very last step is to then make your edge. So as you can see, this, I mean, you can leave it, I'm sure, if you wanted to, but I'm gonna go in a little bit above where the base meets the slump plate or whatever. So I'm just gonna be as stable as I can, pick my spot, and go for it. And I like to have my knife at an angle so that it has a nice edge when it dries. And again, when you go to pull this clay off, make sure you pull it out and around and not up, or you're gonna mess that angle up that you just made. And then use your nice soft sponge again and clean up the edge. And that's it. And now what I have been doing is putting it in I have a little wet rack made out of a greenhouse so that it slows down the drying process. And maybe I just need to cover it in plastic also so that it slows even more, but so you can push that out with the key, take the key off, leave that there, and then you just have this. And so then you can go put that. So here's my makeshift drying rack, literally an old greenhouse. But as you can see, I don't know if it's just the way I took it off. This one, super warped. So that one's going in. Oh, this one's warped too. So maybe I'm gonna try to rehydrate them so that they're not so warped. Because my client did say that she wanted more like organic shapes. There's the beginning of a pig. So maybe she won't care, but I care. So I think what I'm going to try to do is put them on a plaster bat, try to rehydrate them, and then put something heavy on top. And maybe that will help. I'll report back soon. All right, also just for fun, you want to see what's on the second rack. I made these yesterday. My client didn't ask for these, but I'm just gonna offer them anyway because they kind of go with what she wanted. She asked for super bright dinnerware, and so I made some serving platters in bright colors. Look at how cute. Oh, some of them are coming off, but look at how cute. I love it. Okay, here's the other one. I made my own stencils from this really cool like UV stencil kit. I love these colors. Turned out really cute. GR pottery forms for the form. Yeah. So cute. Okay, so takeaways from today. I think I'm gonna let them dry slower, and then I have no idea. Hope for the best, I guess. Like I said, if you have any recommendations, that'd be great. Maybe I'll try to put something like semi-heavy on top like Florian Gadsby does and see if that helps. I've also seen people putting, well, it wouldn't work probably. I was thinking, I've seen people put like a piece of newspaper on top of a mug to like keep it from warping, but I don't think that would work because it's not gonna be wet when I flip it. But anyway, thanks for joining. I will report back if any of these things work, and yeah, please help me because I'm new and I've never done this before. Thanks, bye.